Okay, I want to work for you one of the problems that is the ax plus b plus c problems. Specifically, we're thinking about lesson 8.6, where we sometimes have a coefficient that goes with our x squared, but we're not talking about perfect squares in our first term and our last term. So this is more of the trinomials that aren't perfect squares, but we need to find two factors. And before, we've always done trial and error. It's the way that the book shows to do it. It's the way that I learned to do it when I was younger. But there is another method that I want to share with you, and it's actually a very neat method. It's called the AC method. It's the AC method, and we use the initials MARF or MARF. And the M stands for multiply. The A stands for add to B. The R stands for rewrite. Rewrite B. And the F stands for factor by grouping. Let me sort of show you how this works. So in our trinomial, this is A and this is C. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to multiply A and C. So 6 times -2, and we're going to get -12 for our answer. And so we're going to add two factors of -12 that add up to equal 1. And of course, that's going to be 4 and -3. And our 4 is positive and our 3 is negative because we're adding them up to equal 1. So our larger one has to be positive. And then we're going to rewrite B as these factors. So we have 6x squared plus 4x minus 3x minus 2. So our B, this x here in our center term, our middle term, we're writing it as 4x minus 3x, all right? And then once we do that, we're going to group these two and the last two over here together. And we're going to factor out a 2x here. So we're left with 3x plus 2 here. And then we're going to factor out a -1. So this is really a -3, but when we factor out a -1, we're going to get 3x plus 2 here. Now this should look familiar because when we factor by grouping, we usually get two terms that have a similar component to them. So now we're going to factor out the 3x plus 2 here. And then we're left in the first term with 2x and in the second term with a -1. And there are our factors of 6x squared plus x minus 2. We can show this by doing FOIL real quick. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. And then we have the outside, which is minus 3x, the inside, which is plus 4x, and the last, which is minus 2. We combine these two. We have 6x squared plus x minus 2. All right, and so these are our factors, and we've checked it. Now this method will work with any of our trinomials that needs to be factored, but it is especially useful if they have a coefficient at the first term where we have our squared term here. Now when you don't need to use this is if you have a square on the first term and a perfect square for your last term. This doesn't fall into that category, but there are a lot of trinomials that do fall into that category. So if you have a perfect square for your first term and your last term, always make sure that it doesn't fit into the special case trinomials the perfect square trinomial patterns. And you can find that on lesson 8.7. And we can deal with that some more in another video. But for this video, I wanted to show you this specific way of working your trinomials for factoring.